Hi everybody, this is Mr. Short. Today we're going to learn about significant figures, and our big job today is to learn how to count the number of significant figures that are in a number that's given to you. I want to start by explaining that significant figures relate to the certainty of measurements. You can see up on the screen that we have three rules related to significant figures. Rule number one is the simplest. Rule number one says that any non-zero digit is always significant. So let me give you a couple of examples right here. If I were to give you the number 111, that would have three significant figures because it has three non-zero digits in it. If I were to give you the number 11, that would only have two significant figures. So you can see that rule is pretty simple. Rule number one, non-zero digits are always significant. Rule number two is a little bit abstract at this point, but this will come up throughout the course. Rule number two has to do with exact numbers, and it says some numbers are exact and have an infinite number of significant figures. Exact numbers occur in simple counting operations, like for example, if you count $25. If you have a $20 and a $5 bill in your hand, you have exactly $25, and there's no uncertainty associated with that. So we would say that that exact number, $25, has an infinite number of significant figures. Something else that comes up in this category is called conversion factors. So for example, we know that there are exactly 12 inches in exactly 1 foot. So even though it looks like the number 12 has two significant figures, and it looks like the number 1, as in 1 foot, has one significant figure, because these are exact measurements right here, there is no uncertainty associated with that fact that there are 12 inches in 1 foot. So 12 inches in 1 foot would have an infinite number of significant figures. You can take a look at a couple of other examples there as well. Really what we have to do is we have to stop and think about zeros that are in numbers. There are three types of zeros that can appear in numbers. If you stop and think with me for a second, a zero can either be at the beginning of a number, at the middle of a number, or at the end of a number. Those are the only three places that zeros can be. And it's useful to mentally classify zeros as beginning, middle, or ending zeros when you're taking a look at numbers. For example, right here we have middle zeros. Okay, so out to the side I'm going to put middle zeros. And you can see that 3a, a zero is significant when it is in between non-zero digits. So for example, the number 205 has three significant figures because the 2 and the 5 are significant according to rule number 1, and 3a says that that middle zero is significant because middle zeros are always significant. So we know that the number 205 has three significant figures. Likewise, the number 2.05, the 2 and the 2 and the 5 are significant because of rule 1. 3a, this zero is significant right here because middle zeros are always significant. So 2.05 would also have three significant figures. Same thing down here with the number 61.09. This is a middle zero. Middle zeros are always significant. Rule 1 says that the 6, 1, and 9 are significant. So this would have four significant figures. So 3a is pretty simple. A zero is significant when it's between a non-zero digit. Here's rule 3b. 3b, a zero is significant when it's at the end of a number and the number does have a decimal. So this is a rule about ending zeros in number with a decimal point. And again, as we read right there, a zero is significant when it's at the end of a number that does have a decimal. So for example, this is an ending zero, and this is also an ending zero. We have two ending zeros. The number has a decimal point, and so including the 5, according to rule number 1, this 5, 0, and 0 are the three significant figures. Likewise, right here, we start with four non-zero digits, so the 2, 5, 1, and 6 are significant. This is an ending zero in a number with a decimal, so that zero is also significant. So this would have five significant figures. 3.00 Both of these are classified as ending zeros, meaning they're after the last non-zero digit. And this number has a decimal, so all three of these digits would be significant figures. Now, you can see that we're kind of training ourselves to think differently about numbers here. This is a number that you probably wouldn't see in math class, 20 points. But that decimal makes this an ending zero and a number with a decimal, and so it's significant. So both the 2 and the 0 are significant. We would say that there's less uncertainty associated with, say, 20 points meters than 20 meters. The number 20 meters is less certain than is the number 20 point meters. Okay, so again, significant figures have to do with certainty of measurements. Okay, 3C. 3C again has to do with another type of zero, and it says a zero is never significant when it's at the end of a number without a decimal. Okay, so this is an ending zero in a number without a decimal. You can see over here that these three zeros are ending zeros in a number without a decimal, so they're not significant according to 3C, but the 1 is significant because Rule 1 says non-zero digits are always significant. Okay, so this has one significant figure. Okay, this number 590, the 0, there's no decimal in this, and so right here we only have two significant figures. That is not a significant 0. Okay, so I'm going to write a note out to the side here. So this is ending 0 without decimal. Okay, and here's the last rule. This is rule 3D. This is beginning zeros. It says a 0 is never significant when it is before the first non-zero digit. See, these three zeros right here are at the beginning. Even though there's a decimal right here, this rule right here says that these three beginning zeros are not significant. So we've only got the 2 and the 5 that are significant, therefore we've got two significant figures. This 0 right here is a middle 0. So according to this rule right up here, middle zeros are always significant. So that 0 is significant, the 1 and the 8 are significant, so three significant figures. But these two zeros that are at the beginning of the number are not significant. So again, to review, rule number 1, non-zeros are always significant. Rule number 3, when we think about zeros, you've got to start by classifying the 0 as the beginning 0, the middle 0, or the ending 0. Beginning zeros are right down here. They're simple. They're never significant. Middle zeros are right here, rule A. They're simple because middle zeros are always significant. It's these B and C, these ending zeros, where you have to stop and ask yourself, does the number have a decimal or not? If it does not have a decimal, then it's not significant. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit more of this with you, and then your assignment is going to be to complete questions 1 through 4 in this packet and submit questions 1 through 4. In this packet, when it says verify, what it means is that the number that's down here has the indicated number of significant figures. So this says verify that each of the following numbers contains 4 significant figures. What I want you to do is to circle the 4 significant figures. Now, this applies rule number 1. There are 4 significant figures there because we have 4 non-zero digits. I would say that we also have to apply the rule about beginning zeros in a number without a decimal. None of these zeros are significant because they're beginning zeros in a number without a decimal. Okay, likewise, we have 4 significant figures right here. Because if we apply rule 1 says that all 4 of these non-zero digits are significant. And then if we apply the rule about ending zeros in a number without a decimal, these are not significant right there. Okay, I want you to complete C and D. Down here, how many sig figs are in each of these numbers? I'm going to do just a couple of these. So if we take a look at this, we can ask ourselves about these. And I would say, are these at the beginning, middle, or the end? They're at the beginning. we know from a rule up above that beginning zeros are not significant. I would then ask the question about these zeros, beginning, middle, or end. These are middle zeros, so they're significant. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 significant figures right here. Do you see how what we're doing is we're classifying numbers as either significant or not significant based on the rules that we see up top? Okay, so again, your job is to complete 1, 2, 3, and 4. Again, you can see that question 3 says verify. In this case, that they've got 5 significant figures. And then here in question 4, apply the rules to figure out how many significant figures are in each of the following numbers. All right, thanks a lot, guys, and see you soon.